Welcome back to another episode here at Healing Together, friends. My name is Adam. I go by Coach Hardgains. I've been coaching bodybuilding, current and recovering drug addiction for over 27 years. But what people don't always know is that throughout that 27 years, I've essentially just been a men's coach. I've been a troubled youth mentor, and I've been a men's coach in many different ways, many different facets, from teaching men health and fitness and wellness and just generally becoming a man, especially working with youth, teaching young men who don't have good male role models in their lives how to be a man, what it means to be a man. And we don't need to get political. I don't want this to get political. But I do know that it's very important for young men, for boys, to know what it means to be a man. And that is a huge part of what we lack in society today. We lack men. We lack real men. We have tons of boys running around acting a fool. We have tons of grown boys who look like men, yet still acting a fool, acting like a boy, without knowing how to be a man, how to be proper, how to be respectful, etiquette, how to be caring, how to be emotional, how to open up, how to have boundaries, how to be respected, how to earn respect. And I was watching a YouTube video this morning, and one of the commercials, one of the ads that popped up was for a men's hair loss product. And clearly, I have no hair, but little backstory real quick. I lost my hair in 2003 when I got deathly ill. Prior to that, I always had very long, bleach blonde, beautiful hair. I got voted best hair as a senior in my yearbook, as a superlative yearbook thing as a senior. I always had braids and dreadlocks and mohawk and cornrows, and I did everything possible with my hair. I loved my hair. And if you're familiar with the biblical story Samson and Delilah, not to go as far as to say that I feel like I grew my strength from my hair, but I knew that I got attention for my hair. And women would tell me that all the time, how beautiful my hair was, how great my hair looked, how cool it looked. And then in college, I actually got voted. I know I've got them here somewhere in a folder. I always keep different memories based on the year of my life in different files. And for instance, I'll throw up a picture here, me in college with just regular hair. I always had fun with my hair. And I'm not going to say that it defined who I was, but it certainly grew attention. It certainly got me attention. And especially as a musician and a model, it got me work. As a model, my hair was part of my look. As an actor, same thing. As a musician on stage, I was always told I had the look. So having the hair that I did and doing the things that I did with my hair, it did get me further in life. It did actually benefit me early on. And here's a picture of me early on with a mohawk. I always did the mohawk thing, if you can see that. And then in college, every year they would do these award ceremonies for people, everyone on campus or whatever. And in college, I got voted sexiest, best looking, best dressed, and best voice. Now, best voice is the only one that has nothing to do with looks. And stay with me here because this all has a very big point that I want to get to. So a lot of my life had become associated to how I looked, and part of that was my hair. All right. So then back to the advertisement I saw this morning on the commercial. Right away, it was a woman speaking and saying, my husband just turned 40 and he's changed. He's not the same in the bedroom and he's not the same person, and his lack of confidence is affecting us. And then one day I realized that it all came down to his hair loss. And then it was an advertisement for Hims, which I'm sure many of you have seen, these pills, these vitamins called Hims. So we've got hair transplants, we've got hair dyes, we've got all these other things, these pills, the red infrared caps. All of these methods that say they will help a man regrow his hair while directly trying to convince you that your self-worth and who you are and your confidence and your level of attractiveness and how far you can go in life and the type of woman that you can get, they are trying to convince you that all of that is associated to whether or not you have hair, to your hair loss. Well, in 2003, I graduated college. Within 3 months, I got deathly ill with organ failure. And I've said this before, but I was at the height of my career, my musical career. We had just played the biggest show of our lives. We were being entertained around the country by record executives, by record labels, and it was essentially down to the point where we were about to choose which record label to go with. And then I got deathly ill. And I lost 50 pounds within just a matter of 2 months. And here's what I looked like. I looked like a skeleton. But not only that, my hair was falling out. My nails became brittle and chipped. And I started losing weight, more weight every day. And then I was house-ridden and then bedridden with IVs hooked up to both arms. And then after extensive testing with every kind of doctor available, eventually we were told that I had 5 weeks left to live. I don't know why 5 weeks, not 4, not 6, but I remember being in the room with my mother for the consultation of the last test, and it was an internal medicine professional, and it was a very reputable one, and he said, Kristen, your son's going to die within 5 weeks because we can't figure out what's wrong with him and we can't save him. And I looked at him and I said, you know, I'm right here still. I'm here. Talk to me. Because I'm an adult and I deserve the respect of you speaking to me as if I'm still right here in front of you. Well, that day, literally that day, I went home and I shaved my head completely bald. Shaved my head completely bald. And I said, no. This isn't it. I'm a fighter. I'm a warrior. This isn't going to beat me. I hadn't eaten in months because I couldn't keep anything in. And I shaved my head. And I'm not going to say that was easy. It's not like I did it and I was like, oh, great, terrific, I look awesome. That was very hard, especially shaving my head and being frail and pale and looking like a skeleton. But I shaved my head and I never looked back. And I wanted to disassociate directly my hair from me. It was hard for me to lose my hair. It really was. It was hard for me to feel like the person I always was without my hair, but it was even harder to know I can't go on stage and play my guitar and sing and perform and lift weights and live a normal life during that time. But I wanted to do what I could in that moment to say, F it, I will never give up. And for me, shaving my head bald was one way I could do that. And so fast forward a few months, and I completely changed my diet. I went on something called the Maker's Diet, which is found in a book called Patient Heal Thyself by Dr. Jordan Rubin. And if any of you have IBS or any internal gut issues, Crohn's, I want you to read this book. Patient Heal Thyself by Dr. Jordan Rubin. And there's a diet in the end of the book that I adhered to 100%. I stuck to that diet. In the beginning, everything just kept coming right back out. But you have to get your body accustomed to the most easily digestible food sources or nutritional sources possible. Goat dairy, organic blended summer squash, ghee, sprouted toast. That's it. That's what I lived off of. I lived off of those 4 things for months. And then eventually, I started to actually put on a pound, 2 pounds. I started to be able to move around a little bit more. But my hair never really came back. My nails got stronger, but my hair never came back. And shortly after that, I decided from that moment on, this would be me. Bald. Essentially. Bald. And I'll be straight up. You know, I had to find peace with that. I had to do a lot of inner introspection and self-evaluation and a lot of work. Because I had to recreate my entire life. I had to rewrite my life. I had to recreate my life. I had to rewrite my entire future. Because I couldn't go back on stage. I couldn't go back to the music industry. I eventually did go back in the form of production as an engineer and producer. And then rather than going back as a model, I went into photography. I became a professional photographer. And that ended up becoming a passion to this day. But friends, my point is that we live in a world that wants to convince us that who we are all comes down to one thing. And that one thing is going to be whatever their product that they're selling is. Hair replacement. It all comes down to losing your hair. You know, there's many different forms of this. And so working on ourselves, working on our inner confidence, who we are, who we know we are, who we know we want to be, who we are trying to become, that has absolutely nothing to do with how much hair is on our head. But I was raised very differently. I was raised in the ghetto by a single mother, but I was raised with a lot of love, surrounded with love. And although in the 3rd grade I was jumped for the first time by 3 other kids for being the poor white kid in the ghetto, my mother made sure that she separated the fact that their anger and animosity towards me had nothing to do with me being poor and white. It had to do with what they go through in their own home. So I was raised this way early on, and I was able to separate these things. But because I was also raised by an adopted father who taught progressive fighting systems, who was a fighting systems instructor, right 2 tiers under Paul Vunak, who started the art, who was, I think, 2 tiers under Dan Inosanto, who was Bruce Lee's protege. So the hierarchy goes Bruce Lee, Dan Inosanto, 2 additional people, Paul Vunak, Paul Jambrone, I think there's 1 person in between there, and then my father, and then me. And so I was taught so much more than just how to defend myself. I was taught how to be a confident man. I was taught to not be afraid of anyone or anything. I was taught what exactly the absence of fear can do for you. I have been shaving my head now since the age of, what was 2003? I don't know, 2003. We're in 2025. 22 years. I've been shaving my head for 22 years. I'm perfectly happy with it. I never think about it. And this is who I am. But I also know that I was raised in a way that enabled me to have the tools to find who I was. My mother gave me tools such as prayer, meditation, yoga, and all these other abstract and non-abstract things, dietary habits, nutrition. Even though we were poor, my mother tried to keep me organic and holistic and raised on essential oils, off of medications and off of vaxxers, because you can't say the word here on YouTube. But I was given and equipped with the tools to become who I wanted to be. And that's why I've been able to be fortunate enough and blessed enough to live a full life. Despite today in 2025 living in horrific chronic pain from my spinal fusion and my legs, my permanent sciatic down both legs and nerve damage down my right side and 2 more bulged discs and a car accident and then a second car accident and then a major brain injury, a TBI. The list goes on and on and on, but I still was blessed to live such a full life before I even had children. And I'm a single father of 6, 5 under the age of 18. And there's nothing in my entire life that will ever come close to the fulfillment of being a father. No accolade that I ever received. No goal that I ever achieved. No dream that ever became a reality. Nothing. Nothing will ever come close to the fulfillment every single day of being a father. And so to close, friends, here in 2025, we're not led with direction. Society leads by confusion. So don't fall into that trap of being allowed to fall for their confusion. Who you are has nothing to do with how much hair is on your head. Who you are is how you treat others. And this is, frankly, as many of us hear that and go, well, duh. It's not that obvious nowadays to many young people. That's why they're out there acting so foolish. And it's even worse when I see adults acting just as foolish. But we need to be the ones to make a difference. Directly in our children's lives, and indirectly through the example that we set for others. And that is also why it's been so important to me to be a youth mentor, to be in the lives of so many young men who didn't have that father figure present, that I could step in and at least be a positive example for them. So we never know who's watching us, looking up to us, and who needs us. We never know. So let's live our lives as if we're always being watched. Because we are. But friends, don't fall for the foolishness of the world. And actually, let me end with this. You know, I share examples of myself and my life and my experiences because those are the most direct for me. I can't speak on your experiences or your journey or what you went through or how you felt. I can kind of for many of my clients, but that's not my business to talk about. So I share my experiences because that is what I have a direct relationship with. So I don't say anything to gloat. In fact, I went from having the world at my fingertips to having nothing. I went from having all of my dreams coming true to losing my life. And I had to get out of that and come back. Not just once or twice or 3 times or 4 times. It's been at least half a dozen times that I've had to do that and rewrite my life and rewrite my journey and rewrite my path. And I always will. Just like you can. So friends, no matter what you're going through, no matter what you are experiencing, tell yourself, I can get through this. I will get through this. And tomorrow is a different day than today. So friends, thanks for watching another video here at Healing Together. Healing starts from the inside out. I'm Coach Hargains. I'll see you in the next video.